Hey guys, so I want you to think back when you were a little guy or a little girl and your parents are teaching you those phrases and those important words that you need to know. And one of those phrases is thank you. And that's appropriate to say thank you to people. And we oftentimes though say thank you and we don't even think about it. It's just part of our culture. It's just something that we say. And yet the Bible is very clear that we as God's people should be thankful. His word says that the one who's filled with God's Spirit will be filled with gratefulness or thankfulness. And I was thinking about that because there's times in my life where I don't feel very thankful because I forget about all the things that God has done in my life. And yet Paul goes a step further than that as far as just giving thanks or being thankful. He says in 1 Thessalonians 5:18, "In everything give thanks, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." And that's like, we read that verse and it's like, wow, that's just one of those verses we kind of want to like ignore and like sweep under the rug, like in everything give thanks. It's like, how do I do that? And I think it's important to understand what Paul's saying there. He's not saying that we should be thankful for everything. I mean, obviously it's ludicrous to think that we should be thankful for evil in the world. But he's talking about in our lives as believers that in all circumstances, good and bad, we are to be thankful. And I think about David. If you remember, David was on the run from Saul. Saul's trying to kill him and David's hiding out in this cave. And he prays a prayer, Psalm 57. And he cries out for mercy from God. He's like, God, Saul's trying to kill me, and I know I'm going to be the next king of Israel, but I need you. And it's like sometimes that's what the only thing we think we can do is we just cry out for help from God. But if you read down a little further in that psalm, in verse 5 and verse 11, 2 times he exalts the Lord. He glorifies the Lord. He praises the Lord. And you read that and you understand David's situation. You're like, how can he do that? And it's because David knows something. He knows that God has purpose for his life, just like our lives. And he knows that God's purpose is greater than his present problem. And for me, it's so easy to forget that as I'm going through and you're going through dark days, and we focus in on our problem, and God says, hey, Darrell, I have a purpose for you. And my purpose for you is bigger than whatever you're going through today. And so we can give thanks in everything. When we have that mindset, we have that attitude. And then I also think that we just take things for granted. You know, I was reading this story about this 12-year-old, another guy named David, and he was born without an immune system. And so he lived in this plastic bubble for 12 years in this enclosure. And he had a bone marrow transplant to see if they could cure his deficiency. And someone asked them, they said, hey David, if you get out of this bubble, this plastic bubble, what do you want to do? And so you're thinking about a 12-year-old kid, all the answers that he could come up with, you know, all these really cool things. And his answer was interesting. He said, well, I want to walk barefoot in the grass. And then second, he said, I want to touch my mother's hand. See, David had never had any human contact for 12 years. And he just wanted to touch his mom's hand. And I think when we think about those things, because we take that kind of stuff for granted, human contact, human touch. We want to hug our mom or dad or our brother or sister or put our arm around someone. We pretty much have pretty easy access to that, but he didn't. So I just want to encourage you today. You know, if you want, we're always talking about we want to change our lives or we want to make a change. We want to change the way we eat. We want to change our exercise. We want to change our career. You know, one of the greatest things we can do to change our lives is to be more grateful. And so I'm praying for myself and for us that we can do what Paul said. In everything, give thanks. And I pray that God will encourage you, that you give thanks for him and help us to be more grateful. God bless you.